You've been waiting for 22 minutes. You've checked your phone 4 times. You've ordered a coffee you didn't want. You are pissed because that always happens with this person. But somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought keeps surfacing, one you immediately push back down. Maybe I'm just not worth showing up for. Here's what's strange. Your friend isn't a bad person. You know this? They're funny, loyal, the first to show up when something actually goes wrong. And yet, every single time, you're the one sitting there, waiting. So what's actually happening? Because the answer isn't what you think. And honestly, half of it isn't even about them. Psychologists at Washington University studied chronically late people for years. They expected to find a pattern, laziness, low conscientiousness, some personality flaw. They found nothing. No Big Five trait predicted it, no single personality marker. Chronic lateness doesn't come from character. It comes from something much harder to fix, the way certain brains experience time. They call it time-based perspective memory. Your brain's ability to track time passing without being reminded. Most people do this automatically. They have an internal clock that nudges them. Leave in 10 minutes, you're running late. Some brains don't do this, not because they're broken, because they're wired differently. Here's what your friend's morning actually looks like. They're on the couch, scrolling. Their brain says, you have plenty of time. 20 minutes pass. Their brain still says, plenty of time. They stand up and think, I'll just quickly, and then it's a cascade. Dishes, one email, a jacket they can't find. Each decision feels rational in the moment. In total, it's 25 minutes they didn't account for. Dr. Chavana Childs at the Cleveland Clinic calls this time blindness, and it's not a metaphor, it's neurological. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles time estimation and impulse control, processes time differently in some people. In people with ADHD, it's measurably underactivated. But you don't need a diagnosis to be on that spectrum. Your friend isn't choosing to disrespect you. Their brain is genuinely telling them they're fine, right up until they're not. And if this is the kind of psychology that makes you understand people differently, like this video and subscribe. Because the point isn't to judge people faster, it's to see what's actually happening underneath. And then there's what Gabor Mate talks about. The physician and trauma researcher argues that chronic time blindness almost always has roots in early childhood. When a child grows up in an environment with high stress, emotional unpredictability, or inconsistent caregiving, the brain adapts. It learns to live in the present moment because the future feels unsafe. Mate puts it simply, babies have no sense of time. Time sense has to develop, and it needs specific conditions to do so. Not everyone got those conditions. So when your friend is late again, they're not making a statement about how much they value you. They're running on an operating system that was built before they ever met you. But here's the thing. None of that explains you. Why are you still waiting? You could leave. You've thought about it. You could text, I'm heading out, and mean it. You could have the conversation. Hey, when you're late, it affects me. You could set a limit. 15 minutes, then I go. But you don't. And that's not weakness. It's not being too nice. It's a pattern, and it has a name. Psychologists call it the sunk cost effect in relationships. You've already waited so many times that leaving now feels like admitting all that waiting was wasted. So you wait more, to justify the waiting that came before. But it goes deeper than that. Attachment theory, the framework that explains how our earliest relationships shape every relationship after, suggests something uncomfortable. If you grew up waiting for emotional availability, waiting for a parent who was almost home, waiting for attention that came inconsistently, then waiting doesn't feel like disrespect. It feels like love, not because it is, but because that's the template your nervous system was handed before you were old enough to question it. You're not waiting because your friend is late. You're waiting because somewhere, a long time ago, you learned that love looks like waiting for someone who isn't quite there yet. And here's the sentence that's going to sit with you after this video ends. You're not angry that they're late. You're afraid you're not worth someone showing up on time for. That's the real thing. Not the 22 minutes, not the cold coffee, the quiet, persistent belief that if you were worth it, they'd be there. So what do you do with all of this? You don't fix your friend. You can't rewire their prefrontal cortex. You can't undo their childhood. And honestly, you probably don't need to. Their lateness isn't about you. But you're waiting? That part is yours. You're allowed to say, I care about you and I can't keep doing this. Those two things can both be true. Loving someone and having a limit aren't opposites. Some people will never be on time, not because they don't love you, but because their brain doesn't work that way. You get to decide if you can live with that. What you don't get to do, what you have to stop doing, is using their lateness as evidence of your worth. Because the person who always waits isn't the person who loves too much. They're the person who hasn't learned yet that they're allowed to leave. Maybe today is when that changes. And if this video made you think of someone, or made you understand yourself a little differently, like it and subscribe. There's more psychology here that doesn't just explain people. It explains why their behavior hurts you.